How do we receive more of God's Holy Spirit? That's the question I want to try and look at in today's Take Heart. And for the next few Take Hearts that I'm going to be doing, we're going to be looking at the ways in which the Holy Spirit helps us as we seek to follow God together. But this question of how do we receive the Holy Spirit is one that I was asking for years and years. When I became a Christian, I heard about the Holy Spirit and I was like, oh, I need to receive, more of God's Holy Spirit. And I think the first thing I discovered is that it's not possible to be a Christian without having received the Holy Spirit. So Paul says in 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 3, no one can say Jesus is Lord except by the power of the Holy Spirit. And what that says is, if we're telling, if we are saying Jesus is Lord and we're meaning Jesus is Lord in our life, then that's because the Spirit of God has moved into our hearts and is, has taken up residence inside of us. We have the Holy Spirit. The other thing that's really clear though in the Bible is that it's possible to receive more of God's Holy Spirit. And so the disciples on the day of Pentecost, just last Sunday was Pentecost Sunday, in Acts chapter 2 they received the Holy Spirit. But actually just earlier in John's Gospel, right at the end, Jesus had breathed on them, John chapter 20, and said, receive the Spirit. Then they received the Spirit in Acts 2, and then in Acts 4 again they're filled with the Holy Spirit. And then there's other references. In Ephesians chapter 5 verse 18, Paul says, do not get drunk on wine, which leads to debauchery. Instead, be filled with the Spirit. And the sense of what he's saying there is this continuous go on being filled with the Spirit. So put simply, we have received the Holy Spirit, but it's possible to receive more of God's Holy Spirit. I don't know if you're finding this, but I know in these days I feel like I need to receive more of the Spirit. I need to be refreshed. I need to, where I'm afraid, I need to be emboldened. Where I'm struggling in an area to forgive or to let something go, I need the Spirit of God to come in and help me. Where I can feel myself closing up and hardening, I need God's Spirit to just breathe life into me again and help me to soften up and open up and all the things that the Spirit does, that we'll look at some of them in the days ahead. But I suppose the main thing I wanted to say as we start this is this: the Father is willing to give us more of his Spirit. He really wants to give us more of the Holy Spirit. That's something I struggled to wrap my head around for years and years. I just had thought, you know what, God's reluctant. He doesn't really want to give me the Spirit. Maybe if I get super disciplined and I pray and I fast for 50 days or 5 years, or I go on this long disciplined journey of seeking the Spirit, then maybe as a reward for all of my effort, he will give me the Spirit. But I pictured in my head him being very, very reluctant. And there's a passage that I've just spent a bit of time with that has helped me change my perspective on on the Father and the way that he works. And it's something that Jesus says. This is in Luke chapter 11, verse 9. So I say to you, ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be opened to you. For everyone who asks receives, the one who seeks finds, and to the one who knocks the door will be opened. Which of you fathers, if your son asks for a fish, will give him a snake instead? Or if he asks for an egg, will give him a scorpion? If you then, though you are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father in heaven give the Holy Spirit to those who ask him? And when, Jesus is trying to make something really, really plain to us here. When I was thinking about a father who loves to give good gifts to his kids, the obvious example would be me and my own kids. But actually, there's someone who loves to give good gifts to my kids, I think even more than I do. And it is Mike Pedavacci, who I do the Take Heart podcast with. And Mike, you may well know, loves his food. It's his love language. It's how he receives love. So if you tell him you love him, he's not interested. But if you buy him a kebab, he's yours for life. And it's not just how Mike receives love, it's how Mike gives love as well. And with my little boys, what he loves to do is he loves to bring them chocolate. So when he's traveling around the world, obviously he isn't at the moment, but when he is traveling around the world, he'll often, at the duty free at the airport, he will buy some chocolate for my boys. And I'm not just talking like he buys them a pack of chocolate buttons or something, he goes to town. He brings them these really expensive, like massive boxes of Swiss chocolates, and I've tried saying to him, mate, just literally buy them like a Milky Way and they will be happy. They're like tiny little kids. And he said to me, no, Andy, no, they love being able to choose. I look at Josiah's face as he's selecting his chocolate and I just think this is a great moment for him. And I say to him, are you sure, Mike, that isn't just what you love to be able to do, to select a chocolate? You know, Judah, my 3-year-old, is sitting there eating a cherry liqueur, looking incredibly confused. But anyway, I've been pushed out of the picture now, and it's too late. Like Mike and the boys have got this relationship. They've got an understanding. And Mike showed me about a year or so ago, he showed me this Marco Polo video that Josiah, who was 4 at the time, had sent to him. I'm clearly in the background of the room and he's taken my phone and he's filming this little video message for Mike, and he says, hello, Uncle Mike, I love you and I miss you. And then because I'm in the background, he then sort of mimes the last little bit, and it's just, and bring me chocolate. And like he's in a kind of a prison camp trying to get a message to the outside world or something like that. And of course, this is what Josiah has learned. When he asks Uncle Mike, his Greek, over-the-top Uncle Mike, whose love language is food, when he asks Uncle Mike for chocolate, he is pushing at an open door. If Mike, though he is evil, knows how to give good gifts to my kids, how much more will our Father in heaven, infinite in his goodness, unparalleled in his mercy, whose love is without condition, who has given to us his only beloved Son, Jesus Christ, how much more will he give the Holy Spirit to those who ask him? How do we receive more of God's Holy Spirit? We understand that the problem is not at his end. He is eager and generous, like he wants to bless us with his presence. That's why he went through the cross. That's why he's done everything we read about in the Gospels for relationship with us. What he's waiting for is for us to say, we'd like that too. And so today, and maybe in the following days, let's each of us ask and seek and knock. But let's do it knowing that we are pushing on an open door.